Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us at the MarketSite studio, we have James Francis, Chief Research Officer at CRB Monitor. We're here to discuss the cannabis industry and including all the trends that are impacting the space. James, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Thank you, Jill.
You got it. And we've seen a significant pullback in the cannabis equity market. Right. What has been happening in this space?
Well, nothing that's really that good, I would say. However, there are some silver linings there. You know, what we've seen since I was here last, which I think was in last September, markets pulled back another 40% from where it was before, which really is not great news, although it might be great news for people who are looking for bargains. And what's been happening? Well, I would say that the progress toward legalization is a major factor, along with global economy and inflation still trying to claw back from the pandemic. That hasn't helped either, and of course there's always that competition from the illicit market that's affecting cannabis as well.
So with a significant pullback in the market, is it solely due to what's happening in the regulatory environment? Give us an update there.
It's mostly due to that, Mark, because when you think about it, what's happening to equities in general that has that impact from inflation and from the global economy, et cetera. I mean, those things are affecting all equities, but really the other things that affect cannabis are things that are not really the same as just any old equities. So progress toward legalization is pretty much slowed down, but there are some things that are happening in Congress. There are some bills out there that still could pass. The Safe Banking Act, which is really just related to financial institutions that do transactions that are related to cannabis or provide loans to cannabis providers. And that act would actually be kind of a nice thing for businesses that, you'd see a lot more financial institutions coming into the space. There's also a new act called the Prepare Act that they're trying to get through the House, which is really just to establish a commission to look at legalization and prepare government for legalization. And then there's another new one out there called the HOPE Act, which is related more to vacating convictions of offenders at the state level. So there are things that are happening around legalization without actual legalization taking place. And I think that's where investors are sort of holding off.
You had mentioned that there's competition from the illicit market.
Absolutely.
And this might sound like a novice question, but how so? Where is that competitive? Is it better? Is it more easily distributed?
Well, yeah, I mean, the illicit market has an advantage because it's not taxed and it's not regulated. Right? And it's very expensive to produce cannabis, right? And so, you could basically have cannabis of any quality and just sell it on the street corner. And that's the illicit market, but there's just tons of it that comes over the border. And there's a lot of it that's grown right here in the US, and it's very hard to control. Law enforcement doesn't really have a great handle on it. But at some point in time, if you get legalization, I will say this too, 38 states now have, plus the District of Columbia and 3 US territories, have legalized marijuana for medical use. And also now we're up to 20 states that have legalized marijuana, plus the District of Columbia. So we're moving in the direction of total legalization across the United States. And I think as soon as you get that federal legalization where it's very highly regulated, they'll go after the illicit cannabis market. Right now, the feds are not really looking at it as the same way. But when there's a lot of money at stake, let's put it that way, then you might be able to keep the illicit market away.
So anything positive here or globally that will help the cannabis industry?
There's a lot of positive things to look at. First of all, those prices are incredibly low at this point, and I think that people should be looking at it. Either a basket of what we would call tier 1 equities. CRB Monitor tracks 1,700 companies now that are publicly listed, and so there are some that you might be able to put together in a basket, or select an ETF that I would say sort of has reached critical mass and has enough assets in it that it's not going to close down. That's a great way to get exposure now too. But the really great news is that all these states that are legalizing have hundreds and hundreds of businesses that are now moving into the space. CRB Monitor, last time we spoke, we were tracking 65,000 businesses. We're up to 72,000 businesses. So we've increased our coverage by 10%, by 5,000 businesses. And that is not slowing down. There are still states that are even red states that are legalizing cannabis right now. So there's a lot of good news out there. The industry employs hundreds of thousands of people. It's not going away anytime soon, Jill.
So from an investor perspective, what does this all mean going forward?
Well, it means that you just want to probably buy something and leave it alone because legalization is probably not happening right away, but you get some turnover in Congress, some more Gen Z people there to to start to think more rationally about the cannabis space and understanding that it doesn't need to be a Schedule I drug that it is right now, on par with things like heroin and LSD. It's not dangerous. So cannabis is actually there, in the wrong place. And as soon as people understand that and think of cannabis as an emerging market, and when we looked at emerging markets back in the 1970s and 80s, they were this volatile, right? They had these crazy things going on in them, no way to move capital in and out. And now look what's happened over the years. And I think cannabis is going to be something very similar.
All right, appreciate the insight as always, James. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.